Ow. Oh. Oh. I think I landed on my keys. Also, I might have gotten shot. Okay. Okay. That is not my ringtone. Released in 2007 by Square-Enix, and specifically the team that made Kingdom Hearts, for the Nintendo DS, The World Ends With You is easily one of the most interesting and unique action RPGs ever made, and possibly the best on the handheld, sporting a combat system that I have never seen replicated anywhere else, all tied together with energetic music and visual flair. You play as Neku, having just woken up in Shibuya with no idea how he got there or who he is. And if that isn't bad enough, strange creatures are attacking him and he is helpless against them. But luck is on his side as a cute anime waifu appears to help him out and the battle begins. As I said before, combat in The World Ends With You is unlike any I have ever experienced and fully utilizes what the Nintendo DS can do, which, just to be clear here, we are focusing on the original DS release, not the mobile or Switch ports, because there will be a few glaring differences, with one of the biggest being dual screens. Duh. Combat takes place across both in a way that links them and splits them apart at the same time. And yes, you do need to keep an eye on both if you want to win. And yeah, it's not exactly easy. So let's break it down. On the bottom screen, you control Neku with touch controls. You can lead him around by dragging the stylus or make him dash with a swipe. And I'm sure that sounds like a deal breaker for some of you, but it's actually pretty fluid, especially with how it utilizes the different powers. Looking across the top of the bottom screen here, you'll find your pins, or your skill set. These are the different abilities you have equipped, which can wildly vary between each other, especially with the activation. For example, one of the earliest pins you acquire lets you set fire anywhere you drag the stylus. Some make Neku slash foes, some shoot, some heal, and some even utilize the mic to work. Yeah, blow into the mic for an AoE attack. I told you that the combat fully utilizes what the DS can do. Though, arguably, this is also where we'll find one of the game's biggest flaws too. I mean, there are only so many ways to swipe or drag a stylus, meaning it can be pretty easy to accidentally use the wrong pins that activate in similar ways. Personally, I recommend trying to use a variety of pins that work differently, though it still doesn't exactly help when you're trying to get Neku to dodge and the pins keep activating instead. Still though, it's not that cumbersome, especially since the other character you're controlling is probably going to be taking lots of hits too. Oh yes, the other character, Neku's partner, is regulated to the top screen, and while each one does have their own unique quirks, they all play relatively the same. Though it is worth noting that if you don't take control of your partner, they will autoplay. So technically, you don't have to look at the top screen, but they are basically just punching bags without any input from you. Controlled with a D-pad or face buttons, based on whether you're a lefty or righty, meaning that yes, essentially you're going to be using the stylus with one hand and pressing buttons with the other, which is actually a lot easier than you would expect. But to simplify things, all your partners are basically stationary, only really moving to counter or dodge. To attack, you basically just have to press left or right in the direction of the enemy. But, as you'd probably expect, there's more to it than just that. Though, I tend to just spam one direction and leave it up to fate. It's pressing over, up, or down to follow the cards on screen that's the tricky part. And what card you want to land on will constantly be changing. But, if you do it correctly, you'll rack up stars. Get enough, and you'll unleash a powerful team attack that spans both screens. Because, as I stated before, the two are connected. And it's not just the screens. Both characters share a health bar that depletes from both ends when their respective character takes a hit. Which may sound unfair, but the enemies share that same handicap. But those enemies, I want to talk about them. After winning our first battle, we discover that Neku and many others are trapped in the Reaper's game, taking place in another version of Shibuya, basically another plane of existence, one that is overrun by monsters simply known as the Noise. Now, The World Ends With You is an amazing looking game, just brimming with style. It has a kick-ass anime opening, bright and colorful sprites, many of which can fill up the screen to give areas a real bustling feel, as well as help show off how isolated others are. It has a wonderful anime aesthetic that more modern Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts games are known for, a personal favorite of mine, but by far my favorite designs have to be the Noise themselves. They are essentially giant animals, except with one major gimmick: that the most iconic part of their bodies have been replaced with graffiti. Frogs with graffiti legs, bears with graffiti arms, sharks with graffiti fins. I think you get the idea. It's so simple, but at the same time so memorable. I love it. And the same can easily be said about the music too, which, just like the combat, is very unique and absolute fire. Sporting an urban J-pop soundtrack, it most certainly stands out from the crowd, and realistically, probably isn't for everyone. Though personally, I love it, and I'd imagine that most weebs would too. But more importantly, it fits the tone of the game, the hustle and bustle of the city. It is used really well, swapping between battle tracks a lot so they never get old, as well as changing up during exploration. Plus, unlike most game soundtracks, this one has so many great songs with actual lyrics, both in English and Japanese, making it really easy to listen to outside of just playing the game, which is appropriate since escaping the game is the name of the game. And while combat itself definitely steals the show, we can't forget about why we're fighting. As I said before, The World Ends With You is an RPG, and thus relies heavily on its story. So I won't be spoiling that here. All you need to know is that 1, Neku is probably the most relatable protagonist in gaming history. He loves the fact that no one can see him because he can't stand people. And I mean, really, who doesn't hate people? Am I right?
But in all seriousness, the characters in this game are great, choosing to really focus on a small group so we really get to know them well and watch them develop in such a short time. Plus, their reactions and quips are just amazing.
And 2, in order to escape the game, each day players must fulfill a mission given to them by the Reapers. Fail to do so and you face erasure, which is how the game is ultimately structured. Each day sees Neku and his partner running around Shibuya, trying to solve puzzles by reading minds and trying to influence the thoughts of the people who can't see them. It's certainly a cool concept. And as you'd expect, they have to take down a lot of noise as the story unfolds. And considering this is a Square RPG, I think we all know that what I just told you is only the tip of the iceberg. There is just so much more going on in this game, and it is worth checking out. I personally love this story. Though, I guess if you're feeling lazy, you could just go watch the anime adaptation, but trust me, you'd be missing out. And you do not want to miss out on The World Ends With You. A great art style that holds up, unique and stylish music, a fun adventure, and a truly unique combat system unlike any I've ever really seen makes this game shine. And while there are a few minor issues with the controls, they're really just hiccups. Like I said before, The World Ends With You has also been re-released on mobile and Switch, which I haven't played myself, but considering it was made with a DS hardware in mind, it's the original version that I recommend the most. But regardless, if you love RPGs, action games, anime games, or just looking for something that is both unique and outstanding, you owe it to yourself to play The World Ends With You. It comes highly recommended. And there you have it. Why isn't this disappearing? Oh, you cheap son of a...